stand by. The vacuum tubes are warming up. This is a special live broadcast right here on Georgia Radio.
Checking in with another author here on our series on Georgia Authors. We're talking to Heidi Alert. She is a fantastic young adult fantasy writer. Why on earth, Matt, would you have a young adult fantasy writer on a classic country station? Because a lot of you have young kids in your life and young folks, maybe some grandkids. And you know what? It's going to be summer road trip season before you know it. And if you want to keep them busy and not asking if they're, going to be able to pull over and buy something or pull into the bathroom stop, you should be buying Heidi's books right now. Heidi, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks so much for having me.
This is exciting stuff. It's difficult to write. I can only imagine coming up with another world, much less, a whole bunch of characters that are going to keep somebody happy. How do you do this? How do you write young adult fiction, and what got you into this, Heidi?
That is a great question, and I'm laughing as you're describing how hard it must be, because I will tell you, if I knew how hard it was going to be at the beginning, I may have thought twice about embarking on it.
Is that your co-author in there, I hear? That's awesome.
Yes, I know. I am so sorry.
No, come on down.
But,
that's great.
Lots of extra guests. But yeah, I even as you talked about road trips and you talk about the next generation, I heard this quote recently that says, if you want to change people, tell a story. And it's not just kind of talking to them, and it's not, just kind of, I think storytelling is such an art and such a powerful form, and especially for the next generation. One of the things that got me started was really my daughter. I have two kids, but my daughter in particular is just a voracious reader, and she was 12 whenever I started writing, and really my background, I've always loved reading, but it was really for her and for her peers and kind of for young folks wanting to just tell stories that uplift, that give hope, and really inspire that next generation. So that's why fantasy, that's why young adult. And I totally agree with you in terms of, where we want to help inspire that next generation.
Your website is HeidiAlert.com. We're going to quick link it in this show's story so folks can find it easily. What are they going to see when they go there as far as the books? Let's talk about the books, because this is a series. It's a great story, but dive into this just a little bit. Give us a taste.
Sure. So it's two stories. The first one is out. It's called Fight We Must. And then the second book, When We Shall, is going to be available next week on May 1st. And so the stories themselves, it's set again in a fantasy kind of make-believe world. But it has a lot of influence from the Caribbean. So I was based and I actually wrote the Fight We Must. I started it whenever I was living in Trinidad and Tobago. And then we moved here to Atlanta. And so I finished it up here, but there's strong influences from the islands and from the Caribbean and from Samoa. And what you'll find is that it's told from 2 points of view. So one is from a 16-year-old girl who is from the island of Jamrock, and she is kind of on the run trying to save her sisters who are kidnapped by the emperor. So there's lots of action going on. And then the second point of view, because I was really trying to show just kind of two worldviews. And the second is told from the prince, who is kind of the high prince of the capital city and of the emperor in there. And so what happens is the prince, he has to go on the run. And this is kind of, so I described as values-based young adult fantasy, because that's another thing that was really important as I was writing for my daughter, and I'm writing for young adults, is to really have it infused with values. And so there's a moment where the prince, he has to stand up and kind of make a choice to do the right thing and kind of save this young servant. I call it like a little Moses moment, because he has to save a life. He has to stand up against the emperor, and he is forced to go on the run. And so he goes on the run. He meets up with Charlotte, who is the girl from Jamrock, and they just have great adventures, fight a lot of stuff. But in the end, they win. And it's kind of that hope of fight we must, but when we shall, and knowing that there's hope in the future. And I think that's one of the most exciting parts.
I want to ask. I've got a question I want to dive into here, but first I've got to ask this, because when you hear young adult fantasy, one of the things that I hear amongst my own circles, are parents that are concerned with stuff that and it doesn't hearing this values decision that's in your book. But some folks are concerned with the darkness of some of this stuff, the occult and all of this other stuff. How do you handle that in your books?
And that's a very fair question. And it's something that even as a mother, I have concern. Like when my daughter was reading, eventually I lost the ability to keep up with her because she was reading so much. But it was for that very thing. Like you're trying to watch what they are consuming and just, again, the values that they start to just soak in. And so, but whenever we talk about fantasy, it's really just being in a different world, in a different setting. And to me, everything that's infused, so like some of the powers that they're able to see in the unseen realm is what we describe it, is really what's based in truth. And there's a lot of, I'll describe it as Easter eggs. So it's not a Christian fiction, but if you know certain stories, like it's going to resonate. So just like I described that Moses moment. So it's not a biblical book or that sort of thing, but it's rooted in very strong values that once you know that thing, you're like, hey, this sounds familiar, or I kind of know this. And a lot of my family and friends and feedback that I've gotten from readers, like that's what excites them too. They're seeing certain values that they're familiar with. There's certain stories that they know, but they just see it in a different setting.
And I've had folks that have told me this, that were not necessarily Christian. One of them was a Muslim lady who raised this concern at a writers group that I used to be a part of. It's interesting though, as a parent, and this is where I think you're really striking a chord, a parent or a grandparent. When you get to when the young person gets to a certain age, it is impossible to keep up, A, with the reading, but then B, to really pre-read some of the stuff that they're reading. Because I mean, if I had 8 hours in a day to sit down and read a book as fast as my son does, or as fast as your daughter, like what you're saying, you just don't have the time. So knowing that you can trust an author is a big deal. HeidiAlert.com is the website. Again, HeidiAlert.com. I have to get into this because it's like the chicken. It's the little chicken that's just sitting there tapping away. I'm just imagining you laying there on the beach, and you open up Zillow, and you're like, it's nice here on the islands, but wow, look at this rancher out there in Atlanta. It really looks nice. Maybe we should move to Atlanta. Is that how it happened, or was there another opportunity that brought you to the South?
Well, perhaps my laughter is giving me away a little bit, but I will say it wasn't quite as serene as that choice. So I am originally from the north, up in Pittsburgh, but I've been 11 years down in the Caribbean. My husband is Jamaican, and really our kids were in high school. And it was a family-based choice to come here, and also it happened kind of during COVID, and a lot of changes happening. So, but I will say Atlanta in particular is because we couldn't go too far north. My husband was not interested in winter.
He draws a line on the map. I could just see it.
Yes,
I'm not going any further than this.
So we could not go too far north. And I really think Atlanta, and it has been absolutely wonderful. I mean, we were slightly traumatized because the winters are much colder than I ever anticipated. Like we actually got snow, I think, the first winter we were here. But I think it just has a wealth of diversity, even the landscape and all the trees and greenery and everything else itself. It's been a wonderful place to call home.
The Atlanta Writers Club, you found a home there. You're part of this historic group of writers in the state of Georgia. This is really more of a regional club. It's the Atlanta Writers Club. Yeah. But you're part of it. And I'm just curious, what has that offered your writing, being a part of this group?
Yep. And that's a great question. And I think community is so important, probably for every endeavor, but writing absolutely included, and being able to kind of share in the process with others who are going through the journey. So whether it's kind of writing skills and technique, whether it's even, quite frankly, just encouragement and meeting other people who are on the same journey, because it is hard to write a book, and not just write a book, but publish a book, and not just publish a book, but sell a book, and, all these steps involved. And so going through that process with others who are on that same journey, helping to encourage others. And again, that same uplift message. So uplift for the readers, but also uplift for fellow peers. And so it's been really great to get connected. And one thing that I was talking with a friend recently, and we talked about the challenges that a lot of creatives, and especially writers, face. There's two things. It's consistency and confidence, because you can never write a book in a day or a week or even a month. And so you have to be consistent over a long period of time in terms of writing. And then just the confidence to share that, and to share what you've written in kind of rough forms with other persons, or even the final product, just being able to talk about that with others. I think that's really important to do, and kind of having a safe space to kind of share that with has been really important. So I really appreciate the Atlanta Writers Club.
I think that's wonderful. And of course, you can join yourself if you're on the fence maybe about stepping out. I'm also a member of the Carrollton Writers Guild out here in West Georgia, which I love. We just had our writers conference. But, there's so many wonderful people across the state of Georgia that would love to see you succeed. So I know a lot of you are singer-songwriters who listen. A lot of you have a talent, whether it's poetry or whether it's, writing the next great novel. There are people out there like you. Heidi is one of them. There are a lot of others, thousands to be exact, that would love to get to know you. So we're going to feature a lot of authors, Heidi, over the next few weeks on Georgia Radio. And one of them I was talking to yesterday said, why? And I think the answer is really simple, because you cannot have music without the written word, and it all works together. So I really appreciate you being the first of our series of author interviews that we're going to do here with Georgia-based authors. And it's great that you came here from the islands.
It's great being here, and thank you so much for having this segment in this series, because it really means a lot. It's that same thing of encouragement. I appreciate these moments so much, so thank you.
How do you handle that moment? You hit send, it goes off to your editor, and then the long wait happens. It happens, right? You know what I'm talking about? And that inner critic comes up and it starts tapping on your shoulder. Heidi, what?
Oh my goodness.
What were you thinking? Maybe just open the file one more time and make that's a tough part to be in. And you're there right now, sort of, because this new book's coming out.
Yeah.
And how is that?
100%. So it is an emotional roller coaster, no matter how many times you do it. And I think that's also the importance of having your community, your tribe, kind of like your go-to people. I have a writing group where we meet weekly, and having that core, those core people surround you to kind of get you through the ups and downs and everything else. Because I will tell you, from the time I send it to the editor, there's still actually a lot of work to be done. That's the time where I put a lot into doing the back matter and the cover and the website and all that sort of thing. But it's this moment now where it's submitted to everything and it's about to go on sale and I can't do anything else to change it. That is the moment, even talking about it now, your heart starts beating a little bit faster and you're like, oh my goodness. But I think, having that group, and because this is book 2, I do have a lot of folks that read book 1 that are really excited. So that's encouragement to me. And I know that, at the end of the day, sometimes my co-author that you heard at the beginning, my dog, my cat, and my family, it's you'll always have a core group of love and support, which is important, but there's no getting around that. It is an emotional roller coaster.
I get it. HeidiAlert.com. You can pre-order it right now. The release date is May the 1st. When We Shall is the name of the new book. Go get it. Heidi, thanks for being here. Great to meet you.
Thank you so much.
We'll
I
talk
appreciate
soon.
it.
All right.
Okay.
Stay
Thank
tuned,
you.
everybody. We'll be right back with more great music right after this.
Country, that's what I grew up listening to.
Georgia Radio. We love you more than peanuts and peaches. So glad you're here.